Then let's begin. Football is ranked as the most viewed TV program for the 7th year in a row, which 18 million people tune in to watch every Sunday. It is the most beloved sport in our nation. But behind all the lights, glory, and entertainment are the tragic stories of suffering. Back in the summer of 2018, I couldn't have cared less about football or the NFL until I saw headlines reporting that a 16-year-old died from a head injury as a result of playing, that I finally realized how damaging the sport is. From there, I discovered the tragedy of Mike Webster. In 2002, when an autopsy was performed on Mike Webster, the 50-year-old retired center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the thorn in the foot of the NFL was exposed. Everyone knew that Webster had been going through a rough time, but no one knew the extent of his suffering and mental chaos. Dr. Bennett Omalu, a humble Nigerian, had uncovered CTE in Mike Webster's brain. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, called CTE, is a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated blows to the head. I want to lay out the evidence of CTE in football players in order to challenge your understanding of the sport. I will explain what CTE is, Dr. Bennett Omalu's beginning and journey to America, and examine America's dangerous mindset of football. What is CTE? Currently, researchers are saying we've just skimmed the surface of information about CTE. But let me explain to you what we know so far about this disease and how it affects the brain. According to the Concussion Legacy Foundation, CTE is not only found in football players, but in boxers, hockey players, military veterans, and soccer players, and others with a history of repetitive brain trauma. How does one get CTE? Especially in football, players will have an impact to the head. Since the brain floats inside the skull, it will slosh against it, causing microscopic fractures to form. Healthy proteins, called tau, form into abnormal strangle proteins, which eat away the brain cells over a period of time. According to Dr. Omalu, the acceleration-deceleration effect that occurs is likened to getting hit in the head by a 10-pound cannonball traveling 30 miles per hour. Even the most up-to-date helmet cannot protect our brains from that kind of impact. How does CTE manifest in one's life? The most common symptoms include impulse control problems, aggression, depression, and paranoia. As the disease progresses, some may experience problems with thinking, memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, and eventually progressive dementia. One of the worst known examples of CTE was that of Aaron Hernandez. Aaron played for the New England Patriots as a tight end. After an autopsy, it was revealed that Hernandez's brain had one of the most severe cases of advanced CTE. He was found guilty of murdering his friend in 2015, and in November 2017, during his trial for the murder of 2 other men, he committed suicide at the age of 27. Now you may be wondering, does CTE cause suicide? There are some who would like to cast doubt on this claim. But what about players like Owen Thomas and Junior Seau? Owen was the 21-year-old captain of the University of Pennsylvania football team in the prime of his life. In 2010, he committed suicide and his family was stunned. He was never diagnosed with a concussion or had any background of depression. His mother states, "I can only say for myself that Owen was a very unlikely person in his normal state of mind to commit suicide." Following the study of his brain and discovery of CTE, Owen's story prompted the originating of the Concussion Legacy Foundation. The beloved Chargers linebacker, Junior Seau, was a San Diego hero and an influential leader who filled any room he was in with laughter. He was probably one of the least likely persons to commit suicide, but tragically in 2012, he did. His family and fans were heartbroken. Researchers found he had CTE. Now, this disease is not the only contributing factor to these suicides, but we can't ignore what they all have in common: CTE. As of now, we know that 36 football players have died because of CTE. 16 out of these 36 committed suicide. God used an outsider to explore the uncharted waters of these tragic events and discover CTE. Dr. Bennett Omalu. Dr. Omalu was raised in Nigeria, and through trusting in God and persuasion from his father, he overcame trial after trial in order to receive his medical degree. In Nigeria, Dr. Omalu was extremely troubled that he could not prevent treatable diseases as a result of their lack of medicine. Children were dying from malnutrition, and his people just accepted that they couldn't do anything about it. His co-workers told him, "That's just how things are." And that is when he realized his country was ensnared by conformational intelligence. It is defined by Dr. Omalu as a phenomenon whereby the way you perceive the world, including your sense of right and wrong, are controlled and constricted by the expectations, cultures, traditions, and norms of the society around you, without you being aware of it. As a result, when factual evidence is presented to you that runs counter to your conformational mindset, you deny and reject that evidence, even though it is true and preconceived ideas are false. Later, he would realize that Nigeria wasn't the only country ensnared by conformational intelligence. Dr. Omalu's origins in Nigeria and understanding of conformational intelligence would play a pivotal role when he would eventually expose CTE. America's mindset. Football is glorified and idolized in our country. The American public holds football stars as heroes, explains Dr. Omalu. Yet, when one of those heroes die, like Junior Seau, as a result of playing the game, the public simply shrugs and keeps watching. He goes on to say, "That leads me to wonder, how can Americans idolize football players, yet seem to care so little about the toll the game takes upon their heroes?" That answer lies with conformational intelligence. People have told Dr. Omalu that if he had grown up in America, he would have never performed an autopsy on Mike Webster because he would have so much fascination for him. You see, he would have been consumed with conformational intelligence and would idolize football. Dr. Omalu writes, "Mike Webster had seen some of the best physicians and surgeons in the United States, but those physicians, because of their conformational fascination with football, did not link it with his ailments." He goes on to say, "It took an outsider like myself, who did not conform to America's mindset, to objectively link Webster's ailments and identify CTE. Thus, when Dr. Omalu exposed what he had discovered to some of those same doctors, they immediately dismissed any possible link, that football was the culprit. The NFL then set out to destroy Dr. Omalu's career and life achievements. Yet, when he began to be persecuted, he states, 'I cannot keep quiet. God and his spirit within me would not allow me to stay silent. I never sought this life. Why was I the one who pulled back the curtain on the NFL's dirty little secret and forced it to deal with questions it sought to hide for many years? God placed me here.' Dr. Omalu's full Nigerian name means a blessing. Life is the greatest gift of all. If you know, come forth and speak. God gave him this name to set the course of his entire life, to show his glory and power." Finally, I want to challenge our perspective on football. Our attitude and what we say to those who play or don't play football will impact their lives. Retired players from the NFL who are suffering from CTE are speaking up and saying, "CTE has taken my life away. I wouldn't have played football at all if I had known what I do now at 64. A 4-year-old boy whose father is suffering from CTE and cannot recognize his son said to his mother, 'Is it Daddy's good brain today, or is it Daddy's football brain today?' No moment of glory is worth the years of suffering and pain." We have discussed the groundbreaking discovery of CTE and its link to football players, Dr. Omalu's beginning and journey to America, and have examined how America is being affected by conformational intelligence and aided you to formulate a decision about football. If you are not a football fan and can't see how my message applies to you, I understand. I was in your same situation. But after researching CTE and its link to football, my heart now goes out to these families who have lost loved ones. I am doing this speech for them, to inform others about what they had gone through. I never dreamed I'd be speaking on football, but here I am, unveiling the NFL and exposing the truth on CTE. Thank you.